What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's video. Things that every guitar player / bass player should have at a gig. So yes, welcome everyone to today's video. A video about things that I believe every guitar player and/or bass player should have at a gig. Now, this may be a little above and beyond what most people would normally be bringing to a gig, but it all depends on the nature of your gig. I'm a solo artist. I do solo gigs where I use a loop station and I play multi-instruments by myself. So I'm bringing a guitar, I'm bringing a bass, an electric, an acoustic, a bass, and a full PA. So I end up bringing a little bit more to a gig, but this will all depend on what kind of a gig you're doing, what kind of things you'll need to bring with you to your gig. However, most of these items will be quite obvious, some not so much, but most of these items, most of the time, a guitar player or bass player should have these items with them at a gig. Number one of the obvious ones, spare strings. For whatever kind of instrument that you're playing. For me, I have a bass, I have an acoustic, and an electric. I bring them all to all gigs. I end up bringing all of those strings with me as spares, and at least 3 or 4 sets of each that I have on me in my gig bag at all times. So yes, it's kind of an obvious one. Make sure you have spare strings. Number 2, a string winder / cutter. You can get them both separately, or you can get one like this that's kind of a 2-in-1. String cutter and string winder in one. Makes no sense on having spare strings if you can't cut them or get them on there. Number 3, another obvious one, a tuner. I'll tell you what, these little headstock tuners are absolutely fantastic. I love these things. I've got 1 or 2 with me at all my gigs with my guitars, and one that I always keep in the studio. Especially for in the studio, it's just great to not have to keep on unplugging and replugging back into a direct tuner, especially if you're recording through a direct box like I am all the time. But anyways, these headstock tuners are great. You don't need a pedal tuner. These things are like $12. They go on your headstock. They work the same way a piezo pickup does. It senses it by vibration. You can just kill the master volume on your guitar, click one of these on, tune away, click it off, turn your volume back on. Love these little headstock tuners. Number 4, a set of small screwdrivers. Normal size screwdriver sets don't really work so well for us guitar player and bass players. Make sure you have yourself a tiny screwdriver set. Number 5, a set of Allen wrenches. Get a set that has all the sizes that you'll need for both adjusting your action, your saddles, your truss rod, all that sort of stuff. Allen wrenches are a must-use tool for many guitar and bass players. Number 6, spare batteries. Most of us, especially if you're using active pickups, you're going to need 9 volts. Always have spare 9-volt batteries on you. And as well, too, if you're using the headstock tuners, always have some of these watch batteries that these headstock tuners go with. And if you're using anything that uses AA's, AAA's, whatever type of batteries that you're using, that you consume on any gig, make sure you have spare batteries. Number 7, zip ties. A clean and tidy stage is a happy stage. Good to always have some of these around in multiple different sizes, not just tiny ones like this, to be able to clean up cable messes whenever they arise. Number 8, Velcro. This wonderful 2-sided type Velcro that you can use and you can cut right here as an alternative to cable ties, so that way you can cable tie off any of your cables and undo it and reuse it. This stuff is really cheap, really affordable. A roll twice the size of this, I think I got for about $8 at Walmart. You can make quite a few cable ties together. Use this if you want to tie up some cables and whatnot on stage, but you don't want it to be permanent. Number 9, cables. Spare cables. Again, whatever type of gig that you're doing, whatever type of cables you need, guitar cables, speaker cables, XLR cables, patch cables, power bars, charge cables, USB chargers for charge cables. Again, cables are something that are always going to die on you last minute. Always make sure that you have at least 2 or more spare cables for every type of cable that you're going to need. Number 10, a cable tester. This is really going to help you out through some jams when there's a problem going on with the PA, with your rig, anything like that. When you're at sound check, before you're going through things, is there a bad cable? Which cable is it? You've got God knows how many different cables in your rig that could be the possibility. Cable tester like this, it does everything. It does MIDI, it does even RCA, it does 1/4 inch, XLR, TRS, you name it. This does this. Always have yourself a cable tester. It'll save you a lot of time troubleshooting and a lot of headaches. Number 11, fuses. Again, always have spare fuses for whatever type of amp and or PA and whatever type of rating of fuse you would need for said amp or PA. There's been quite a few times where I've been at a gig and the fuse in my amp or my mixer would blow. Without having spare fuses, there would have been no show. Make sure you've got yourself some spare fuses. Number 12, duck, stage, or gaff tape. Got to have yourself some nice thick tape for any sort of gigs where you have to run an extension cable or something like that out to where people might be standing or dancing and you don't have a carpet or something like that to throw it over. Nice to be able to tape down those cables to take away any sort of tripping hazard out of the way, and for any other thing that you can imagine. Make sure you have some sort of tape with yourself. Number 13, if you have an acoustic guitar and you're playing acoustic guitar, make sure you have spare acoustic guitar bridge pins. I've been at a gig before where I broke a string, and on set break, I had to swap out the string. I go to pull out one of the bridge pins, snaps right off. That wasn't exactly a wonderful thing. Learn the hard way. Number 14, here's one that most people probably wouldn't have thought to be on this list. A nail clipper. But it's actually happened to me before. Setting up gear, moving things around, you snap a nail. And even though your nails are cut kind of short, because you're a guitar or bass player, it cracks a little in ways and leaves a little hanger on there. And if you try to just kind of bite it or yank it or tear it, you can tear into it and do a lot of damage to your finger or fingernail before a gig. Good to have one of these to make a nice clean cut if there is a fingernail injury while setting up. And last but not least, number 15, crazy glue. Now I know, again, this is yet another one that most people didn't expect to be on this list. Now I've had this happen before. Once again, while setting up, as opposed to cracking a nail, you cut your finger. You cut your finger very badly right across the spot where you're going to be fretting. And especially if you're playing acoustic guitar, electric guitar, it's a really fine little cut. It could rip your finger open even more, making it also impossible. Or even before the gig, you cut your finger or cut your hand somehow. Crazy glue is a nice quick fix that will get you through your gig if you've got a bad cut on your fingers, on your hand, and you need to get through a gig. Again, as a 30-year veteran of gigging out constantly, I've had to go through this more than a couple times. This is not to make up for, if you're practicing too much, you callous, no, I'm not talking about stuff like this. I'm talking about some sort of injury or cut. It's happened. It's happened to me. Crazy glue got me through that night, sometimes the weekend. That about does it for this video. Hopefully, there's a few items in there that most people didn't think that they should have at a gig that they thought, you know what? He's right. Maybe I actually should have that at my gig. So, thanks a lot for checking out this video, everybody. Do what makes you happy.